Okay, and just like that, I'm back for another Portable Clint. All right, I got a guy here. I have seen this guy in audition rooms for a long time. I'm gonna find out for how long. But this guy always has good style. I dig his style. And he's one of the nicest dudes when I do talk to him, but I'm gonna know him more after today. So let's bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Weber.
Hey!
Hey, what's up, buddy? How are you, man? Look at you. Look at you.
Clint, how are you?
Good. I'm fantastic. How are you?
Sorry.
It's all good. Look at you.
I got a little winded being in sort of a, I was in a position like right before a plane crashes.
Sure,
they put
yeah.
you in the electric. I'm good.
Okay,
that
good.
was the best intro I've ever had in my career.
Well,
so
good.
you.
That's
You
what I
said
try
some
to
nice
do.
things.
Thank you. Well, it's true. I've always dug your style.
Aw.
Seriously.
What do you mean style?
I don't know. You got like I don't want to say the word preppy, but it's like a different word. I was nifty. I don't know. You got a good style, and I've always
come
appreciated
on.
it.
If somebody here has gonna,
All right. Enough
has
about
got some
me.
style,
Let's get
I would
you.
say. All right.
Ben Weber. When did you enter Hollywood?
Well, it's kind of an interesting story. I had been in New York for like 10 years, starting in 93 to 2000-ish.
Okay, and you had a good career there, so I should mention the Hollywood business and not necessarily Hollywood, California.
Yeah, however, I mean, whatever you want to...
Okay, let's talk about you going to New York. Because where were you born?
I'm from Seattle, Washington.
Okay,
Yeah.
when did you go to New York?
So I, out of high school, was like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I was just like, I want to get out of Seattle, everybody's leaving. And I had gone to a very tiny high school. So I was like, I kind of want to get out and see the world.
Sure.
So I went to the University of Colorado. And it was great because it was like you could kind of make it whatever you wanted it to be. But it wasn't really the right fit. Like I knew I kind of wanted to get into acting and performance, and there wasn't a great theater program there. So I transferred to NYU.
Okay.
And that's where I started to really like kind of get a taste for the business. And I was just an English major at NYU, but I was working at a comedy club at night.
Which one?
This place, it's right around the street from the Comedy Cellar, but it was called the Boston Comedy Club.
Okay, for some reason I wanted you to say Catch a Rising Star.
No, it was not Catch a Rising
Okay.
Star. That was uptown, but this was not as fancy, not as glamorous, but it was this club that was owned by this guy that managed Chappelle and Dane Cook and Todd Barry worked out of there. And Louis C.K. And it was great. Like I got the job. The guy that worked the door before me was Neil Brennan, who went on to go with Dave to do the Dave Chappelle show.
Yes.
And so it was like a big deal, like just even getting that job. And
Yeah.
I had to like stand out in the freezing cold, handing out like 2-for-1 passes.
Did you see the show Crashing?
I
on
did,
HBO?
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
like that, right? You have to pass out.
Totally. You had to
Okay.
like, and the thing about like being a comic in those days is like, on a Tuesday, there's 2 people in the audience. So like, it's not that, how can you be that nervous if you bomb? But the thing is like at 2:00 in the morning, there'd be like 5 comics behind you. So if you walk those 2 people who are in the audience, like those guys, you're going to catch help from those guys.
Right.
So you got to do everything in your power to just be like, just get them to stay.
I bet.
So that's how I kind of learned how to do stand-up, and then I was just sort of an English major by day, and so I was kind of like, if I had a bad night in the club, I'd be like, well, I'm just still a student.
You're new,
but it was
yeah.
a good way to kind of like test the waters.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I remember you were in a movie that made a big splash in the independent world. I feel like it was like the biggest independent movie besides Sex, Lies, and Videotapes. Kissing Jessica Stein.
Yeah, that was a big deal.
It was.
Yeah.
I remember. I'm just saying, Sex, Lies, and Videotapes was like the biggest one
That's
that
right, Jennifer
started.
Westfeld
Yeah,
was
I feel like
like
it
a-
started, but
Yep.
then yours came along, not right after that, but pretty close.
Yeah, I had a great audition with her. I did one of these things that I never do where I actually brought a prop to the audition.
Okay, I'm a big fan of bringing props.
You do bring
Yeah,
props? Oh,
yeah.
interesting.
Just for
Well-
theatrical, and it's very minimal. It's
Yeah.
like if it's a Pop-Tart, I'll bring a Pop-Tart.
That's funny. I brought in like a one of those tiny little a calculator, because I was sort of like a nerdy guy.
Yeah, okay.
And I had something where I like worked in the scene, and as soon as I got there, I was like, this is so stupid. And I bailed on it, and they ended up being cool, and just sort of like,
Great.
it was a cool vibe. But you gotta go with what works.
Yeah, because you gotta stand out a little bit, but you don't want to like stand out where they're like, okay, enough with the props, Carrot Top. So yeah, you got to be careful with that. Okay,
Yeah.
so you book that. What's the first thing you book out there? I don't want to jump the gun here.
Like Law and Order type stuff.
Okay.
And
You did.
I think the first job that I booked was like a Clarissa Explains It All, or no, wait, there was some show.
That Clarissa
like
show
yes.
on Nickelodeon?
Yeah, I think I had
Okay.
a walk-on guest star for that. Jeffrey Ross auditioned before me, the stand-up comedian.
Yeah.
And I went in right after him, and he killed the room. And you're like, oh, he got it, but I guess he wasn't that big of an actor.
Right,
so
right.
I went in, basically did like the serious version of what he did. But
Okay.
I think that was my very, very first thing that I got cast.
But
after
then-
getting yeah.
Go ahead. I mean to cut you off. Were you
No.
I was going to say, and then you book 7 episodes of Sex in the City out there.
Yeah, that was crazy, because that was 96, 97, I think. And it was a great opportunity, but it definitely, by that point, there was so much network money out there, like that network dream of like getting on a show like Friends, like that was the dream, right?
Right.
Get cast in New York and then move out to LA. And here was this new thing. HBO was getting into like original content, but it was like they didn't have any track record whatsoever.
You're
and
right.
so getting cast in that was a little bit of like oh, okay, sure.
Right.
A sex show on HBO? Yeah, let me go home and tell my folks about it. They were so psyched.
Yeah.
You know that channel you don't have? I'm now on that.
With Sex in the City.
Sex is in the title.
Yeah, because it is the title, I guess, fits it, but it's not a bad show. I mean, it's one of my wife's favorite shows.
No. It was amazing. But yeah, it's definitely, it wasn't my thing. But once we sat down to like the first table read, and you're like, oh, we're going to do a show about anal sex? And we're going to be like this committed and this funny to it? Like, holy shit. And HBO is going to do it right. They're not gonna just do it.
It wasn't trashy.
No, it wasn't trashy. Like they're gonna do it with the woman that runs comedy there. I forget what her name right now, but it was just so smart and so intelligent, and so right away you were like, oh, geez, this is like history in the making.
Yeah,
and
it was.
Yeah,
and it was.
And the day the pilot aired, I remember walking down 57th Street in New York, and some businessman came up to me and was like, I saw you on that show last night.
Oh, that's cool, right? Was that the first time you were noticed?
Yeah. I mean, I'd been in New York for a minute, and to have something like that happen, like that was fucking...
Yeah. How often did that happen after that moment?
I think, it started to build up steam a little bit, and it kind of went off. But it was cool just to be able to break out in that way, and kind of have that moment and be part of it. I wasn't with Sex and the City for the whole run, but I got to have it when it was at this kind of nascent stage, and New York was at this, it was a different place, and working with Sarah Jessica was so great,
I bet, man.
Jesus, every scene with her was she had so much great energy. It was awesome, really awesome.
So you do 7, right?
Yeah.
And then what do you do after that? When do you stay in? Go ahead.
Good question. So I think I had done a movie called The Broken Hearts Club, which was another indie film, where it was about this group of gay friends that were living in West Hollywood, and Greg Berlanti had written that.
Okay.
And we went to Sundance with that in 99, I think, or in 2000. And so that was like a cool experience. Dean Cain was in the cast, and Tim Oliphant, and
I like Tim Oliphant.
Yeah, he was great.
Yeah.
And we actually came out here to West Hollywood and like rehearsed at like some of these real venues.
Okay,
like we went to Rage and like tried to like hit on guys. And, like, we actually rehearsed that movie like kind of out in the real world. And
oh wow,
it was
man!
Really cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was kind of a cool little stepping stone into like, oh, there is another world out in LA.
And was that your first time in LA when you came to rehearse?
More or less, yeah, except for like family trips and stuff. Like, yeah.
There's a movie that we need to talk about before we go on any further. Your second movie was directed by Barbara Streisand. I mean, dude, how did that happen?
Well, it was just a day that I worked on it.
But you still worked with Barbara Streisand.
I got in on that. I don't remember.
What was the movie called again?
It was called The Mirror Has Two Faces.
Right, and it was Nick Nolte. Was it? Who was the guy? No, Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Bridges. Yes. He brought his camera on set, and
he's very famous about taking pictures on sets.
Yeah, that was one of my first jobs too. That was like I was in a classroom, and he was the teacher. I think he was supposed to be like a Harvard professor. Never seen the movie.
Really? I haven't seen it either.
But I was like, oh, this is cool, like actors get treated really well, and like I get to be around, famous people. Like it was a great first gig.
And that was in New York too.
That was also in New York, yep.
Okay, so let's talk about your move here.
Yeah.
Unless there's something else in New York I need to know about.
No, I mean it felt like a natural thing because I wasn't like a classically trained New York actor where I was like, oh, I got to stay here and do theater. I didn't have that tie to it. I certainly respect those people and I would do theater in a heartbeat, but that wasn't the thing keeping me there. So once I was sort of like, oh wow, like LA is, if that's an option, like that's cool.
Well, I guess when you came out here to rehearse, did your mind start thinking that you wanted
a little bit? Yeah,
okay.
Like Kara came out and we like did a little trip out to Vegas and like, yeah, it was sort of like, oh wow, like we could have a little yard.
Yeah.
And maybe not rejection. I could handle rejection a little easier if it's sunny out.
Yeah, so you're
going to the
right.
gym, 5 days a week.
Okay, so you moved. When did you move to LA?
Okay, so this is a crazy story. My moving day was 9/11.
I don't know why I've had the words 9/11 so many times in this thing.
Well, because I think it's the generation of actor that you're talking about.
You're
like,
right.
Just the people that I've noticed in your show, that's an interesting bookend.
Yeah. Okay, so 9/11, that was your moving day.
I was on a flight. I was supposed to be on a flight out of JFK at 9 o'clock in the morning. I was there with my cat, Tintin, mean, angry, terrible cat. And we were on a flight that was supposed to leave at 9 o'clock that morning. At 8:45, 8:35, I get a call from somebody that's like, hey, this thing happened at the World Trade Center. I don't know if it's real or not. And then, of course, they canceled the flight like 15 minutes later. And what was crazy was that my wife had stayed behind to go to a wedding in Western Massachusetts.
Okay.
So she was way up there. So we were trying to coordinate. Should she come down to the city and meet me in the cat, or should I come up there? And of course, like the phones were dead.
Yeah.
So it was this really scary day of us like incrementally working my way across Queens and over the bridges that were open, and it was just this. I mean, people had it.
Did you walk the whole time?
We were in a car with like 5 other people that were trying to get to like Western Massachusetts.
Okay.
So it was this crazy long day, but I ended up being reunited with Kara at the end of the day, and we ended up driving across country.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And so that was like a real
I bet.
entree into California. It was like
It
was like, okay, this is the way we probably should have done it in the first place, but yeah.
Okay, so you move here.
Yeah.
How do you start hustling? Do you already have an agent lined up?
Well, what's funny is that I didn't really sign off with Gersh before I left that I was doing this. Like I just kind of did it. And that was kind of not a mistake, but I was just like, I wanted to move. And my agent at the time was like, that's great if you want to go out there, but I'm not going to represent you out there. Like, so I kind of did it under the wire. And at first it was a hiccup. Like they weren't sending me out and adjusting was hard. And then I got a commercial agent. I can't remember who. Oh, my old commercial agent in New York, who I'm blanking on, set me up with Pat Brannon out here.
Okay.
And she's like, go
is that
meet
BBR?
with BBR. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, Judy Ridge and Pat Brannon. And she's like, just go meet with Pat. And I'm like, I am not like America's pitch man. Like there's no way.
Little did you know you were, but go ahead.
There was an era of commercials that we were coming from that it was like, that good-looking guy. Like the normal thing wasn't there.
Right.
But anyway, so I meet with Pat and Judy, and they're like, "Oh, you're gonna work a ton," and I was like, "I don't know," and another transition. Obviously, like there was 3 or 4 months where I was like, "I don't know what I'm doing," but then so, you know, something clicks. You're in there and you're like, oh, I can just be my small little thing. Like I don't have to, you know, I can just be me. I can do this thing, and you're picking up on that. Even you know, like
that's amazing.
There's like a thing when you realize you're, you know, the receptors are out there. For you know what I mean? You must have had a similar experience where you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, where everything worked to what you were doing.
Yes. I don't know if it worked necessarily,
but
you
at
were
the
like,
time, at the time it was.
Oh, that weird thing that I do? Oh, okay.
Wait, you like
That's
that?
a thing?
No, okay, great. Yeah,
okay, because I got that in spades.
Okay, so you start going out commercially.
Yeah.
What was the first big commercial you booked out here?
I think I did like a McDonald's commercial. Was one of the first ones that I did out here. But then there wasn't anything that significant about it. But I think like a week later, I booked another McDonald's commercial. And so I was like, oh, okay. There are a lot
because sometimes they have different companies handling it. Was it two different companies?
I think that might have been the case, because and then I booked something else right away that I can't really remember, but I was like, oh, this is interesting. But I would say that first year, I still had a little bit of a hang up about, oh, well, I'm just doing this until like theatrical stuff picks up. You know, I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder.
Yep, I hear you on that.
And I almost want to say like that kind of helped me a little bit in the room, you know, especially in callback situations. If you're like, I don't need this, you know, I got other stuff going on. Wow, what a load off your shoulders, you know, to not have to be like, oh, I got to be the man. And so that was actually in a weird way. I don't know how you manufacture that, but like that kind of helped me. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's an opportunity to do things in these commercials, to be physical, to be funny that they're not letting me do on network television, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's when I really embraced it. And I was like, fuck that. Like I love commercials, you know?
Okay, so Ben, I'm trying to get to your next big booking, when does Geico come into effect?
Right. I wish I could remember what year that was. I want to say 2008. Maybe it was a little before that, 2006.
So you went 5 years before you hit Geico.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Anything going on in those 5 years before I get to Geico?
You know, some small TV appearances here and there and some movie stuff. But just, some commercials and stuff like that. But
Okay, so you get an audition for Geico.
Yeah.
Tell me about the audition, the breakdown.
Well, so it was really easy. I get to Ross Lazy, and it's this audition for a Geico caveman. And in the
and there's no
room,
caveman before this.
No, they've
these
never
commercials.
Done it.
Okay, so okay.
So I get there and I'm like, it's all these big giant Neanderthal guys, and I'm like, okay, no thanks, goodbye. Like I'm leaving.
Yeah, you're already writing yourself
I already like sort of psyched myself out of it because everybody in the room was so much bigger than me.
Sure.
And Jeff Phillips was there.
Yep.
And you know all these great character actors. And then I read the copy and I was like, oh. They need a sensitive guy.
Okay,
That's how this whole thing works, is that these guys are really injured by these what people are saying. Like they're really, it costs them in a way. And I can relate to something about that.
Do you think that because of your theatrical experience, you knew that they wanted sensitive? Could anybody read that with the script? Or did you pick up on that?
I think as soon as I saw this, I was like, anybody could do this. You know, it's not really the face, because they're going to do that with makeup.
Yeah.
What it is more about is like, just the sensitivity and you know what I love about commercials, and I don't know if it's true as much anymore, but like, it feels like they've done 95% of the legwork, you know?
That is
and
so
there's
true.
just that last little bit of wiggle room where they want you to collaborate. You know, they may not say it,
good point,
but they
man.
want you to help you kind of, and I sensed that with that job. And it was true on the first day of shooting. I was like, they have worked on this script, you know, internally for 6 months, but, you know, I totally improvised the roast duck with mango salsa line when I was sitting down.
Awesome.
And I was like, that makes me just so much more all in.
Yes,
you know, when I can be a contributor.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's necessarily funnier than what they've done. And I want to acknowledge like the hard work that goes into directing and coming up with those spots. But I feel like as an actor, if you can come in and just help be a collaborator for that last 5% of it, like you're gonna do well. You know,
Ben,
I'm sure you've had
seriously,
that
yes, that's great. Yeah, that's a good piece of advice for everybody to know, to be a collaborator, not some guy trying to make it better.
Or perfect, or just like, what is this perfect elusive thing on a mountaintop? It's like, no, we're all trying to, you know,
exactly
make this as good as we can.
Okay, how many Geico caveman spots did you shoot?
I felt like we did, I can't remember, but because I can't remember how many aired, but I feel like we did like at least 4 a year for like 3 or 4 years, or maybe 5 years, and then they did the TV show.
Did you? Who was invited? Because I hear there were different actors, right?
So I went and read for it at CBS or ABC.
You're reading for the thing that you create, that you helped create.
That. Do we want to go here? Because I'm trying to
just skim it.
I did get it was a little hard because it was a little like creating like an Ed Grimley character on SNL, and then you're like, oh, the network wants you to test for that. Are you okay? And you're like, oh, okay. And you know, it brings up all your insecurities. However, you're like, gosh, you know, like I kind of thought I figured some things out about myself, and it makes you kind of re-question. But then you're like, whatever, they're gonna do it their way, and this is just a business. But yeah, it hurt, and what was great, what was therapeutic about it was the show had, you know, whatever success or lack of success, but then as soon as it came back, we did commercials like the very next minute, like kind of making fun of it, or you know, just trying to regrain that territory, and that was like great because that was really.
How many episodes did that even air?
I don't know, but it was definitely like we did at least 4 or 5 a year, and I say like
no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, they did. I know they shot like 8 or 10. I don't know how many.
Was it called the Geico Caveman show?
No.
I mean, was Geico a part of it?
I don't remember what it was called. I don't remember if it was just called the Caveman or what it was.
Who thought of that idea? Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on.
There were some talented people involved.
Okay, so how many?
Nick Kroll was involved. He became one of the. Yeah, like he was. There was some cool people. Like it could have been. I read the pilot and I was like, this is cool. I want to do it. You know, I didn't not want to do it.
It's a great idea. It'd be a great idea if it was great.
Yeah.
Just like anything else. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How many years did we do this? Okay, how many years did you do it, Caveman?
I think it was like 5 or 6 years, and then plus the other side. So yeah, and I remember one of the best moments I had doing that was that we were shooting somewhere up on Sunset Boulevard, like at a fancy hotel, and that was the location. And like I had just gotten into hair and makeup, and I was walking back to set. And I was walking down Sunset Boulevard on a Friday night with like the hair, and Jeff was with me, and cars are honking, and I was just like, I was never gonna feel cool on Sunset Boulevard on a Friday night, except in that situation with like that hair and makeup, and it just is like, have you ever done that? Like wore prosthetic?
Oh yeah.
It
many
changes
times.
your.
It sure does, man.
It totally so much. You benefit so much. From,
absolutely. That comes to an end when? What year? Do you know? I mean, when did it come to an end? When did you get the notice?
You know, there was never any like, this is it, goodbye, thank you. You know, but I just noticed like, you know, they were starting to do other things, and I wasn't asked to do that, and you know, like it was just, it's their thing, you know, so they're still probably making Geico Caveman commercials today, really.
Yeah, did you feel anything after that kind of came?
Not really. You know,
just moved on?
I mean, if Jeff and those guys were all doing them again, I'd feel really sad, but it was like kind of a one-off thing, you know, here and there, and Geico does so much material. It's got so much stuff that's out there. And again, like when that campaign started, Geico was doing 10 other spots at the same time. And I remember like, okay, well, what are the chances of this succeeding? You're doing a leprechaun or a lizard thing,
right.
All these other demographics that they go after. I was like, what is the chance that this one crazy thing is going to even go through? So
okay, well, anyway, that was great stuff. So now, what's the next campaign? Because when do you do Oscar Mayer? Which that's where you and I work together.
That's where we cross over. Oscar Mayer was, I want to say 2008. There was like a real golden, like that's the Ben Weber holy years, maybe of every I had No, actually 2008 was another thing I had done for a cable company. I was doing like this, I did this commercial for for Comcast,
Okay.
where we would go into people's houses, and I dressed up as a guy who was doing interventions, and somebody would come home from work,
Yes.
and we'd fly in the whole family, and they would think they were having like a drug or alcohol intervention, and we'd say like, you need to get off the DirecTV, man, your family's here. And we actually did those, we did a couple of years of those, but they were really nerve-wracking because you would have a PA in your ear telling you like, okay, the guy's at the end of the driveway,
Oh, man.
but you didn't know if he was going to punch you in your
Yeah,
face
yeah.
or not. Most of the time they were cool. Fred Goss directed those. Do you ever work with Fred?
Yeah. I don't know if I worked with Fred, but I
Yeah.
know Fred forever. He's
So
a good guy.
That was 2008. Like that was sort of like my best year. And then I think somewhere in there we did the Oscar Mayer. I feel like that was
How many Oscar Mayer commercials do you think you shot?
maybe 20, 25.
Those were good commercials for you, right? I mean, because I did one and it was good.
Yeah.
I mean, times 20 or 25, it must be fantastic.
It was amazing. It was a terrific experience. It was a great opportunity for me to like be a family guy and to be funny and again to be physical. And Matt Hazelton, the director,
I love Matt.
great guy. You know, really demanding, but like once you're in it, like he'll let you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You know? And I had this great line that I improvised on that. One of the first ones where it was like, honey, is it okay if I Facebook the babysitter? And I felt pretty proud, like that made it in there. And I was like, that was pretty early on, like social media wasn't even a thing. But yeah, those were just really, really great. And I remember I was talking to somebody at Oscar Mayer and they said like, yeah, we want to do a campaign that's like Modern Family. We want to air these in between episodes of Modern Family. And I was just like, you are like, I want to cry right now, you know, because I want to be, I want to be seen as like, I want to do this kind of stuff, you know. And so it was so fun, you know, and that family was so fun.
Yeah.
And we really got like a real shorthand. It was great.
Okay, so that's kind of, we're going to wind down with the commercials because we're about to get into something else. But the next campaign was for Coffee Mate. How many have you done with Coffee Mate?
I think I did two for that.
I was going to say, I feel like because
two.
I remember seeing a different spot.
So you know that guy that's in it, Ben Tolpin. He is the voice, and they were going to do a whole campaign with him, and I think, or maybe he did. So I just did one with him, and it was that was my first chance doing a Latin market.
Oh,
one.
Okay, nice.
Yeah,
So
have you ever done one of
yes,
those?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
But they're like,
good.
okay, just shut up in this one.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly. Anything on the commercial world I need to know about?
No,
I mean, dude, it's my hat. Seriously, dude, you did you've done awesome in that department.
I am so thankful that like I am commercials. I am sorry. I totally had you wrong. I thought in my head, ego man.
We've all thought that.
Yeah, I thought he needed to be on Friends and thought he needed to be like up at the hills somewhere. But commercials gave me like, I don't know, such a great platform and such a great community of people that, you know, I don't know, it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, no, it's when it's good, it's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Here's what I liked that you've been in recently. Unabomber.
Oh yeah.
Tell me about that, because that's your longest gig theatrically, correct?
Yeah, that's
Tell
right.
me how you booked that.
So John Papsideris was casting it, and you know, again, it was one of those things where I went in and I didn't really know how big the role was. I didn't even really know what it was, if it was just like one episode or four, you know. And I think that kind of helped me because I went in there just thinking like, I think this guy might just be a day player. I don't really know.
Right.
And so I went in there.
That does help, right? When you think like that.
I think they know also.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I went in there, but I was really prepared for it because I was like, you know what? We're in the golden age of television and commercials are great, but I really want to, you know, I feel like I've paid my dues.
Yes,
I've paid my
I
dues.
get it.
I've got myself out there. I've done all the things that they say to do. And so not that anybody owes you anything, but I was really prepared and I took that opportunity really seriously. And John Papsideris seen me do a million other, you know, I've come in for him, a million other things that I've never booked. And so I don't know why, you know, I'd like to say I gave some killer performance, but I just think they really needed an FBI agent who was kind of soft around the edges and wasn't a blowhard like some of my, you know, not a blowhard, but like he was this this mushy guy who was, and so it was a great opportunity to play a character, to develop this character. And yeah, commercials are like, you work for a day or 2 days at the most, and this was like, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Those are my favorite words in television.
Yes.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Oh man, you said it. Boy, did you say it. Yes, that is true. Okay, so how many episodes did you do of that?
They did 8 episodes, and I was in 7 of them. Only one of the episodes was in completely flashback. So I was in every single one of them. We shot it down in Atlanta. It was my first time like doing something down there where you're like, okay, I got to commute back to my family on the weekends, but you get to really focus on the work when you're down there. And I got to go out with Chris Noth, who was who played one of the FBI agents. And I had worked with him to bring full circle back to Sex and the City. I'd worked with him on Sex and the City, but we'd never really hung out, and I kind of felt like we had some catching up to do. So it was kind of fun to be able to be like, oh, we're kind of neighbors and we're going to work together. And
right.
It was fun.
Oh, that's cool. Did he remember you?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Totally.
That's always the best when they remember you. Hey, dude, what's up, man? Instead of like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, I remember you. Yeah. When they don't.
I think he is, he is a very like open and welcome to. He has been working since like he was 1 year old and has not stopped working. He goes, he's an awesome guy to hang out with. And it was great to just sort of be able to like work professionally and learn from him, but then also be able to be like, yeah, this is fun to just,
He was Mr. Big.
Yeah, Mr. Big, yeah. Okay,
here we go. We're gonna start winding down. Yeah. Good. Here we go. Best time in Hollywood, which, I mean, you have a few, so So which one is it? What moment? What time?
I love that question. Probably Geico somewhere. Any one of those times. There was a time when me and John Lair and Jeff were just getting fitted for those things, and we were doing it out at the prop department, the costume place. And you just sit around for hours,
There's
just
nothing
making jokes.
I love those sit-around days.
I can laugh at John Lair for hours and hours.
He's so funny. He is so funny.
And so, like, those moments, that's not something that's on screen but it just is like, oh my God, this is what I get to do. The flip side of that was once you got, the makeup on and you're on set, and I always had this thing where about 6 hours into it, I'd have a little panic attack that my makeup, there'd be some catastrophe where like my makeup artist would die and I wouldn't be able to get my thing off and I'd just be running around like a bombed out LA.
Oh, that'd be funny to see that. That would be funny to see.
Yeah, it didn't ever happen.
Okay. Worst time in Hollywood.
Oh, I don't know.
Tell me, and listen, it's not the worst time, but that time where you thought, man, this may not happen. Have you ever doubted yourself?
I mean, I'll tell you right now, with what's going on with the commercial business, the last year and a half has not been pretty. It has not been pretty. I'm painting like too rosy a picture of like how it's been. There's been ups and downs for actors. Like that's been a thing forever. But like the current climate that we're in, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And the guy in the middle is getting squeezed. Yeah. And it fucking sucks. It fucking sucks.
Would you ever get a day job?
I mean, I am hustling. I feel like I am working all the time.
But you are working all the time. Yeah. That's the reason why I'm asking.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, totally. Okay. To do what I do, I would run through a wall for my kids.
Amen, brother. Yeah, Amen. Amen, totally. Brother. Well, dude, let's leave it at that because that's awesome. Ben Weber, do me a favor. Tell everybody goodbye.
Bye, world.